My next guest is Professor James Tooley. He is the Vice-chancellor of the University of Buckingham and is calling, aren't you, James, for a so-called Stock amendment to be made to this bill. Just explain what that actually means.
Yes, so you've rightly summarised. Professor Kathleen Stock was, in a sense, hounded from her job, but she wasn't. She was hounded from a job by a campaign, a concerted, orchestrated campaign by students, perhaps some other staff members and outsiders. And the problem with the current bill going through the Houses of Parliament is that it wouldn't really do anything about that. It would almost allow that still to happen. So what I'm proposing is, yes, we call it a Stock amendment now, where someone in Professor Stock's position, she would be able to sue her university or go to the Office for Students and make a complaint if she's being hounded through a campaign of harassment like that. So at the moment, if she was refused a job or not allowed to publish, she could go through the process of complaint. I want to make it stronger so someone is really harassed can actually make a complaint in the same way.
And when we look back, and we've heard from Professor Stock since, as you say, she's left that university, and she's talked about how it was the end point, I think, of 3.5 years of low-level bullying, harassment and reputation thrashing, not just from students, but from colleagues too. I'm sure you know Catherine pretty well. Just explain to viewers what she has been through in the last 3.5 years.
Yeah, well, and she's, you said described it as low level, but it was actually quite high level in the end, wasn't it? There were posters put around campus. There were thugs in hoodies, black hoodies, going around calling for her resignation. There were horrible things posted through her door and so on. And so much so in the end. I mean, the last time I was supposed to meet Kathleen Stock, we were supposed to speak on a panel together in London. The police advised her not to travel from her home near the Sussex University. They advised her not to travel. Such was the degree of harassment she was experiencing. So it was a horrible campaign. And as I say, I don't want any, as Vice-chancellor of my own university and seeing other Vice-chancellors around, we don't want that to happen again. I don't want that to happen again. And I just want this bill to be slightly strengthened so that if anyone is in that position, they will be able to sue their university or make a complaint before 3.5 years of harassment takes place. That's the key thing. We want to be able to nip this in the bud early on.
Now, no one's going to say, obviously, and rightly so, that harassment is the way to deal with this. What would you say to people who are concerned, though, that actually this bill and the talk around it in many regards is in itself a limit to free speech? Because, at universities, of course, lecturers and staff have got views which they should be freely able to express, but students should also be freely able to disagree with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've hit on precisely, this is a very fine line that has to be, maneuvered, if you like. You've got to protect free speech of everyone. But the key thing is that absolutely, in the case of Professor Stock, it was not speech. The people were not engaging in speech. They were not engaging in debate. They were not looking at her, going through her excellent book and saying, well, we disagree with that, we disagree with that. They were just calling for her resignation. They were harassing her. And that is unacceptable. That's not speech. That's harassment. And that can be got rid of. That can be curtailed without impacting free speech. But you have to be very careful. You're absolutely right. You have to respect the free speech of students, free speech of everyone. There is a way of doing that whilst not allowing the sort of awful situation that Kathleen Stock was put under.